all about it. Thank you.
3 Brilliant Minutes, sponsored by Sinclair Heating and Cooling for 24/7 comfort on call.
I gotta say, I wish something like that was around when my kids were little, because boy, you spend so much time worrying. Am I the only one that goes through this?
Yeah, it looks like a great resource for the community.
For sure, for sure. Okay, let's talk about...
Let's talk about you. How lucky am I that I get to work with you?
I know, and the thing about it is, it's going to be news to me what he talks about today, because we didn't get a chance to discuss.
No,
so
we didn't.
Tell us about
It's a little bit of a follow-up of a story that we've been following for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
It's this bird flu. We had this update for you just on March 27th. Then Texas and Kansas, their dairy cattle, in a few instances, testing positive for bird flu at the time. Farmers became concerned. Their cattle started falling ill.
Right.
They weren't giving as much milk as they do. They were lethargic, weren't eating much, though fortunately most of these cows were recovering all on their own in 7 to 10 days. But there was also some concern that this bird flu could find its way into our milk supply. And at that point in time, the USDA was saying, unpasteurized milk, stay away from that, but the pasteurization process should kill any virus, okay?
Right,
so
right.
there wasn't too much concern there. And then shortly a week later, this was early April, we brought you this story, a person diagnosed with bird flu. It was someone who was in contact with those cows in Texas. The only symptom was a little red eye, but
otherwise, yeah.
They put him on antibiotics,
Sure.
he's fine. So that was all good news for the most part there. But now I'm seeing some new headlines. This was just released Tuesday of this week. This is Thursday. This came out from the USDA. There are now 8 states that have livestock with the bird flu, including Michigan, getting closer to Wisconsin. So that's something that we will continue to watch. But there's even a more impactful headline here. Grocery store milk tests positive for bird flu. Now, this was coming out yesterday, and here's what the Food and Drug Administration has to say about that, that indeed samples of pasteurized milk off of grocery store shelves has tested positive for the bird flu virus. But they still aren't sure if this is just particles of the dead virus from the pasteurization process or if there's actually live infectious virus in the milk. They don't think that's the case, but they're doing follow-up studies.
They're watching
They're still
closely,
saying pasteurized milk is safe to drink, but stay away from the unpasteurized milk. But it's something, of course, that they will be tracking. And there's one other addition here too, Cammie. Now, the USDA says that dairy cows who are going to be transported must be tested for bird flu before they're brought across state lines. So obviously they're trying to contain it. So again, we'll continue to follow this story and keep you updated. But now we're on to a story that, if there was ever a story for Cammie Rapson, it is this story, because she loves chocolate.
I love chocolate.
Sometimes she actually requests Kit Kats here at work.
I don't know if it's Kit. I mean, it's any chocolate, really.
Oh, Bill, let's remember that. Put that on the list. Well, here's the story. Many of us know about the sky-high chocolate prices. And, the world price for cocoa has more than doubled over the last year. In fact, prices are now at historic highs, and they're really blaming it on climate change. Cocoa, I didn't know this, almost 80% of the world's cocoa comes from Africa, in a very narrow strip close to the equator. That's where it's mostly coming from. 2 years ago, they had major drought. Last year, it was extremely rainy, so that's just helping to collapse the amount of cocoa available. But, new problem. Chocolate supply threatened by devastating virus now. I know. It's spread by small insects called mealybugs. They eat the cocoa plants, the leaves, the buds, the flowers, and then they spread the virus just by traveling over the cocoa plants. But the problem is that most farmers are just cutting away branches and trees, and you know what that does? Reduces the supply even further. But good news. I want to end with some good news on it all, okay?
I'm calling you Bad News Brad from now on.
The trees can be vaccinated against the mealybugs, so there is hope after all. There is hope after all.
I know. Thanks for your input today, Bradley.
Send her Kit Kats.
When we come back, you need to see how Colorado police save these mountain